Therefore, they are now going to be partisan elections. So that was issued by our attorney, our county attorney issued that guidance. And so that's the expectation that we will have in 2020 for those offices. They will be now running as partisans. So that's my report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Are any questions for Commissioner Wise? Please come up to Mike.
Commissioner, is there anything you can do for the noise at Southampton Pool? The traffic is so loud you can't even hear yourself speak.
Unfortunately, we have control over some things, but noise is not one of them coming from the roadways. I don't know what to advise, but unfortunately, there's not much we can do about that. I had an earlier question. Bob, where does Bob? Bob asked me about the sound wall along the turnpike, and the turnpike is going to be expanded to 6 lanes, and that's going to be the time to have that sound wall put in.
Exactly. We've been waiting for that for a long time. We were promised back when Commissioner Coons was in office, when the turnpike is widened, we'll get our sound barrier. You know, the physics of sound transmission is tricky, and I'm glad they're looking at putting in that wall, but don't expect a huge attenuation. You know, it just comes up and over, but time will tell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Yes.
Could you please give us an update on the Good Samaritan Urgent Care Facility on Haverhill in Okeechobee, and on the Wawa coming across the street that we heard about quite some time ago?
Wawa?
Well, I think the urgent care facility is well underway, and I have not heard an opening date, but that is, they pulled their permits, they're working on that. The Wawa, my understanding, at this point, there's some issues, and honestly, I don't know what they are because the case, it hasn't come to us yet, but it's my understanding that's just sort of on hold right now.
All right. Any other questions for the Commissioner?
Well, great. Well, everybody have a great June. If you're a father, a grandfather, or no one, wish them a happy Father's Day upcoming, and I will see you next month.
Thank you. Which brings us to Treasurer's report. Sebastian?
Good morning, everyone. So I just had a few things that I wanted to touch on today. One, I wanted to start with the reporter. As of right now, with the accounts receivables and what we've collected so far, we're running at a surplus of about $2,600, which is about an 8.5% surplus. Investigations, we're running at about a 32% surplus, so that is good. On laundry, we added in the utility costs, and right now we're running at about a 9.6% surplus. Again, something that's really good. And when I tried to project the budget versus actual through the end of June, we're about $134,000 on the overranging budget across the board, which is also well. Starting this month, we're going to start the budget planning meetings, and so at some point, dates will be released of when we'll have the meetings where everyone can come in and give recommendations for the budget committee. As we go through the next 2 delegate meetings to close out June 30th, 2019, we'll keep updating that number, and we'll work that in with the budget as we go through each one. The other thing I wanted to note was for January to April 2019 compared to January-April 2018, we're up about $37,279. Also another positive sign that things are going well. As for accounts receivable, there are still some associations that are sending the wrong amounts in, and so we're going to send letters out so that way you'll see whatever the correct number is, and then they'll be able to rectify that. For the most part, it works pretty well. Usually once we send the letter out the first time, they usually clear it up. Do I have any questions today regarding January through April 2019? Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Wow. You're very lucky. No questions. Thanks, Sebastian. I'd like to, we have some very important business, and it could conceivably be time-consuming. It's been suggested that I would probably be wise to call for motion to skip the officers' reports for the moment and get on to the bylaws. All right, so we have a motion from Phyllis. Do we have a second? Marilyn, is that you? Marilyn Gordetzer seconds. And so I think, well, we better have a vote. Yeah. So can we put that up on the system? No, it just occurs to me, that's administrative. We don't need a vote. That's point of order sort of thing. So we're going to move along, and I'm going to call up Anita Buchanan, who has over the last couple of 3 years worked like a dog on this. And I hope you all have taken the opportunity to read these proposed bylaw amendments. So, Anita, come on down. All right. You got a spot? Where are you gonna? Yeah, fine. All right, we're going to turn this over to Anita, the chair of our advisory committee. All right.
Thank you, David.
You got a mic?
Yes,
Yeah.
Mike would be good. Okay, everybody, good to see you. Great to have a good, healthy quorum. And today's the day that we finally start voting on the bylaw amendments that we've been talking about forever. The advisory committee has done our best to give you every chance to read, review, and discuss these amendments. I think that most of you either brought with you or picked up this morning this booklet with the amendments that were published in February rather. That was the first thing we did. And the next thing we did was that after publication of those amendments, we got a tremendous number of suggestions and recommendations from those of you who actually read all 30 pages and sent us some very spot-on, detailed, and just excellent suggestions. So after that, we had a town hall on March 14th, where we had a very lively discussion of the amendments. And I have to say that those of you who came showed us that you take your roles very seriously and you know your stuff. In May, we published the revisions that came from all of those comments and all of those emails, and we published the revisions in the UCO Reporter. You have those in your packet. So what you're going to be voting on today is the amendment booklet plus those revisions that came from all of the input we've had since. So you really have an imprint on these bylaws. You'll be voting very soon. I just have a couple more remarks. The revisions were approved by legal counsel. On March 28th, the Officers Committee approved them, and on April 1, the Executive Board approved them, and those votes were unanimous. We're voting article by article today, and we're not going to have, and because it's 12 pages long, we're not going to be able to read each one, and we really won't have time for lengthy debate. So we're suggesting that you ask your questions, make your comments brief and to the point, as I know you can, and I believe we'll get through this fairly quickly. The amendments and the revisions for Articles 1 through 5, which that's all we're doing for today, are really straightforward. They're not as complicated as the ones that come later will get. So they're very straightforward, and I think that we can do this if we work at it. One thing I'm going to tell you is that the first article is just name and location of UCO. A no-brainer, obviously. But because we have to show that we have voted on all the bylaws, we'll be asking you to vote on that as well, too. So now I'm going to turn it over to David, and please let's vote for, or begin the voting for Article 1.
All right. We'll need someone. You have this stuff loaded on? All right. So if you'll pull up the first one, and we'll need someone to make a motion as soon as it's up there. All right. All right. So we'll need a motion and a second. Marilyn?
I move that change the wording in
All right, so I know you couldn't hear it, but Marilyn has moved this motion, this change forward. And Joyce, you second? All right, so yes, we have discussion?
Yes, we have to have a two-thirds.
Yeah. These are
Two-thirds
bylaw
vote.
changes. Remember that we need 2/3 to change bylaw.
I think it's 92, if the math is correct. We had 140 for quorum,
Right.
so would that be 92?
Yeah, good catch,
Oh, 90, yeah.
Ken. Thank you. And you just reminded me of that yesterday. All right. Any discussion on this one? This one seems pretty straightforward. All right, all in favor? Start pushing the appropriate button.
Excellent.
Everybody push a button of your choice. Who's going to?
Pretty good.
Huh? Yeah, well, there's still a couple coming in. Yes, darling. Right,
That's right, it is 94.
right, I agree, 2/3.
94.
Okay, let's bring it up. Oh,
19, okay. And we needed 94.
Right.
To be correct.
so
Yes.
that one passes,
Okay,
all right? Want to bring up the next one?
easy enough. The second one is Article 2, definitions. And if you look in your booklet, you'll see that it's a glossary of terms. We put this in there so everybody could be on the same page when we're talking about
Just one thing,
it.
Anita?
Yeah.
Anita, make sure we get copies of these graphics for the minutes. all right?
Okay.
Thanks, go ahead.
Thank you. So the definitions are a glossary of terms. If you look at them, they're pretty basic. Talk about the delegate assembly, membership, governing documents, all those things. So if you've taken a look at these, and I'm sure you have many times, I think we should be ready to go forward, David. So you can take it away.
All right. I just want to make sure we're still okay. You got any flyers turned in? None. Okay, so quorum is good. And are there any discussions on this one?
They're voting.
Well, they're allowed to vote, but there might be some discussion. There might.
everybody, make sure that light goes on.
What light? Oh, the little clicker light.
Yeah,
I got you.
You don't push it hard enough, it doesn't.
It won't be transmitted. Yeah, you're right. Anyone have a comment on this? We're already voting, so, sir.
Number 3, abstain. Is that a valid vote? I thought you could not abstain.
Sure you can.
An abstention is counted as a non-vote.
Right.
It's a non-vote.
You may be thinking of 718.
Yes.
If you are present at a board meeting and you're a board member and you abstain, you have to clearly state the reason for your abstention, but not, this is corporation meeting, remember, it's just like a meeting at AT&T or IBM. All right. All right.
Okay.
All right. Looks good. Has everyone pressed a button who intends to? All right. Oh, okay. We got a few more. Good thing you brought that up, Marilyn. We got more votes this time.
Very good.
All right, let's call it up.
124.
All right. Clearly, I've asked an overwhelming vote. Next one, Anita.
Okay,
We're doing good.
Okay, those are the easy ones. Okay, Article 3 is fairly easy as well. It's meetings of the delegate assembly. These have been standard pretty much for a long time. It's about the annual meeting, nominations from the floor. You see it in the booklet, regular meetings, special and emergency meetings, quorum. And probably one of the most important things in here is that should there be no quorum, a majority of the delegates entitled to vote at such meetings shall have the power, and I'm going to go down to the very end of it, that the vote, all motions passed by the executive board shall be enforceable as though passed by the delegate assembly. I think I kind of messed that up. What I'm saying is that when there is no quorum, the vote of the delegate assembly is what, the vote of the executive board is what counts. So I think that reinforces the importance of the executive board, and that's a good thing. We have majority vote, conduct of meetings, something new, which is the right to speak. Everybody has the right to 3 uninterrupted minutes. Access to budget, I think that one's pretty straightforward too.
All right. Can we have a motion on this one? You're really sneaking in there. Go ahead, Marilyn. Oh, you beat her? All right, Jackie, you go ahead and make the motion. All right, do we have a second? No. Okay, thank you.
Yo.
Are there any questions on this one? Discussion? Before you start? Hi, Jean.
Hi there.
Oops. Jean Dowling, Salisbury, aye. I have 2 objections. One is that the vote go back to the executive committee. I feel that the vote should be with this body and not with 20 people who represent the village. The second one is that in the one about speaking, at the delegate meeting. There is a clause in here that says you may have to register before the meeting in order to speak. I object to that line being in
Jean,
there
let me just
also.
for 1 minute, that is
Sure.
not in the revisions, we took that out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
I'm trying
gone.
to balance both.
I
Okay.
know, it's hard, I know.
All right, thank you.
That one's out.
All right. I think the comment that Gene made is probably well worthy of consideration. And it's been in our bylaws for a long time. So dependent on how the vote on this one comes out, I don't want to presuppose anything, but it might have to go back to committee for
Right.
some more wordsmithing. Does that sound fair, Anita?
Yeah, it does. Someone could also make a motion to approve the article with the exception of that item.
Sure.
You can do that, too. I'll just give you the rationale, which was that quorum is so important. We hoped that delegates would come and know that if they don't, they relinquish their vote to the executive board. That was the rationale for it, but it's your decision.
All right, would someone like to make a motion with that slight variation? All right, Gene, come on up.
I'll make a motion to approve the Article 3 without that statement in it where it goes back to the executive committee. I don't know exact wording, but you got the gist. F2, thank you.
All right, without falling back on the vote of the executive board. I got it. Okay, did you catch the name?
Yes. Helen Antonoro.
Okay, oh, Helen,
Helen.
hi. Haven't seen you in a while. Helen Antonoro, seconded. All right. I miss Detective Antonoro's presence here in the village. Yes, dear, Jackie. All right, we've got a second. Yeah, come up so we can hear you.
I understand how important the delegate assembly is, but your executive board is elected by all the delegates. So it's not that they're not a committee that is just appointed by the president, not just, but that is appointed by the president. So in essence, the executive board should have some power. So that's my point. I am on the committee, advisory committee, and as you all know, Anita Buchanan is fabulous, but we spend hours and hours on each of these issues trying to be very fair.
All right, Helen?
Helen Antonoro. I agree with what she said, except,
A little closer to the mic.
I agree with what she said, except I don't want my individual right to be taken away. I should have the right, not all of you. Us delegates do matter.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Any further discussion on this one? Seems to be a little variation in opinions here, and that's fine. That's what we're here for. All right, seeing no further... There's a hand up. Oh, Joyce, please. Joyce Reese.
It was,
Huh?
we're
Have I got that wrong?
accepting the version modified to
Bring it the mic.
go back to.
Joyce Reese, I was on the advisory committee. I'm no longer on it. I am on the executive board. I was elected by the delegates. I see no point in having an executive committee if we have no power. The delegates should show up to vote. Otherwise, what power does the executive committee have at all?
All right, it's a good point. Ed?
Good morning, everybody. Happy Father's Day to those. My suggestion is that there be one deferral. One deferral where there wasn't enough delegates to form a quorum. It would be brought up at the next delegate assembly and announced and put in the Yuko Reporter that this particular item didn't have enough delegates. And I think with that forewarning, it would be acceptable. Everything should have at least one shot. That's my opinion.
So you're not looking for it to fall back on the executive board? Just go on to the next meeting of the delegates?
To clarify it, that it doesn't go back to the executive board on one meeting not having enough people to have a quorum. That being the case, it would be brought up at the next delegate meeting, and if the delegates didn't pay attention and didn't come, then it should go back to the executive board. But I think one shot is not sufficient. We've had meetings, even though we reduced it to 117, where we didn't even have 117. So therefore, a big announcement, published, you better come or else. So therefore, I'm for